The sound of Benson Anderson's angry voice filled the glass hallway of Anderson Tech Towers, the biggest technology company in Lagos. His assistants froze where they stood. His secretary's hand trembled as she held the laptop. The clock on the wall ticked louder than it should. He had exactly 2 minutes to reply to the most important email of his career. $100 million contract with a Chinese investor named Mr. Chang. But there was a problem. The document that arrived wasn't in English, it was written entirely in Chinese. Benson's fingers drummed on the glass table as his chest tightened. Why would he send this in Chinese? He muttered. He promised me English. Around him, 10 of his top staff stood helplessly. None of them spoke. None of them knew Chinese. Sir, one of them whispered, maybe we should use Google Translate? Benson snapped his eyes toward him, and risk mistranslating a legal document worth $100 million. Do you know what that means? The room went silent again. Sweat rolled down his forehead. He had worked years for this deal. And now it was slipping away because of a language barrier. The clock ticked again. 1 minute 30 seconds left. He picked up his phone, pacing. Call the embassy. No time. Just someone, anyone. That was when a soft voice came from the entrance. Sir, I can help you translate it. Heads turned. Everyone froze. Standing by the open glass door was a young woman, her brown skin glistening under the morning sun. She looked barely 20. Her clothes were torn at the edges and her slippers were dusty. Her hair was messy, and her hands still wet from washing the company's front pavement. Her name tag read, Adanna, cleaner. Benson blinked. What did you just say? Adanna swallowed hard, her voice trembling but steady. I said, I can help you translate it, sir. The staff burst into murmurs. Translate what? She's joking. She's just a cleaner. One of the managers, a tall man in a black suit, stepped forward angrily. Sir, please ignore her. We can't waste time on this. She's probably confused. But Benson lifted a hand. Wait. His eyes narrowed as he turned to Adanna. You understand Chinese? Adanna nodded. Yes, sir, I do. The manager scoffed. Sir, this is a mistake. A big one. How can this local girl possibly understand Chinese? This is a $1 billion contract. The ticking clock now showed less than 1 minute left. Benson's chest pounded. He didn't care about her clothes or where she came from. He cared about time. He grabbed the laptop, walked up to Adanna, and handed it over. Everyone gasped. Translate it, he said. Her hands shook slightly as she held the device. She wiped them quickly on her dress, then placed the laptop on the security post desk outside under the bright sun. Her eyes scanned the Chinese text line by line, her lips moving quietly. The staff gathered behind Benson, whispering, This can't be real. She's going to mess everything up. Sir, stop her before it's too late. But Benson said nothing. His eyes were locked on Adanna. Then, in less than 1 minute, she lifted her head. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, typing in Chinese faster than anyone expected. She hit send. Silence. Everyone held their breath. 10 seconds passed. 20. Then Benson's laptop beeped. A reply. He clicked it open. The message was from Mr. Chang himself. Perfect translation, Mr. Benson. Congratulations. The contract is yours. Benson's mouth fell open. For a second, he didn't believe what he saw. His eyes darted to Adanna, the girl still standing there, barefoot, her heart pounding. He looked back at the message again. It was real. He had gotten the contract. The billionaire CEO, known for his pride and distance, slowly walked toward Adanna. Then, to everyone's shock, he bent slightly and hugged her. Gasps filled the compound. Some workers dropped their files. Benson's voice cracked. Who are you? Adanna blinked, tears pooling in her eyes. I was born in China, she whispered. My parents worked there until they were framed by their employer and deported back to Nigeria. One night, armed robbers broke into our home and killed them. My uncle took everything my father owned. I had nowhere to go. She wiped her tears, voice shaking. I wanted to become a pilot someday, but life didn't let me. Benson's face softened, his eyes glistened. You won't beg to eat again, Adanna, he said firmly. Not while I'm alive. The staff looked at one another in disbelief. The billionaire, who rarely smiled, was crying. He turned to his assistant. From today, Adanna is under my care. And just like that, the poor orphan who once cleaned floors became the girl who saved $100 million deal. Benson kept his word. Within 2 months, Adanna was admitted into the Nigerian Aviation College. Her story spread through the company like wildfire. The same people who once mocked her now treated her with respect. But little did she know, her journey was far from over, because on her graduation day, someone unexpected would walk into her life, someone who would change everything. The morning sun stretched across the skies of Kaduna, painting soft gold light on the runway of Nigerian Aviation College. Cameras clicked, parents clapped. Graduates in crisp navy blue uniforms tossed their caps high into the air. Among them stood Adanna, the poor orphan who once cleaned floors at Anderson Tech Towers. Her once tattered gown was now replaced by a neat pilot's uniform. Her short natural hair was styled under her navy cap, and her smile shone brighter than the polished airplane wings behind her. She held her certificate with trembling hands, tears of joy glistening in her eyes. From the front row, Benson Anderson watched with pride. His once serious face softened as he clapped harder than anyone else in the crowd. Around him, people whispered, "Isn't that the billionaire who owns Anderson Tech?" "Yes, they say that girl is his adopted daughter. She's lucky. Imagine a cleaner becoming a pilot." Benson didn't care what they said. To him, Adanna was a miracle. As the ceremony ended, reporters rushed forward for interviews, but Adanna politely smiled and slipped away toward the small hangar where her first flight would take off. She wanted a quiet moment, to breathe and remember how far she'd come. But that peace didn't last long. A sleek black Mercedes pulled into the compound. The crowd turned, murmuring. The driver opened the door, and a tall, confident young man stepped out, wearing a grey suit and dark shades. The sun caught the side of his face. It was Williams Anderson, Benson's only son. He had just returned from the United States after years of studying aeronautical engineering. His presence carried a calm authority that made heads turn wherever he walked. "Dad," he called out, removing his shades with a smile. "Williams!" Benson's face broke into joy. He stood and hugged his son tightly. "You didn't tell me you were coming today." "I wanted to surprise you," Williams replied. His eyes scanned the stage. "So this is the girl you've been talking about?" Benson smiled proudly. "Yes, that's Adanna, the orphan who changed my life." Williams turned. His gaze met Adanna's. For a moment, the noise around them faded. Time seemed to freeze. Adanna stood still, unsure whether to bow, smile, or run. Her heart raced. She had seen Williams' photos before, in magazines, in Benson's office. But seeing him in person was different. He was taller, sharper, and his smile carried quiet charm. He walked toward her, extending his hand. "You must be Adanna. My father never stops talking about you." Her voice was soft. "And you must be Williams." Their handshake lingered longer than it should have. Benson chuckled. "Good, you two will get along just fine. We'll be flying together today." Adanna blinked. "Flying?" "Yes," Benson said proudly. "You're taking us on your debut flight, our company's private jet." "You've earned it." The announcement sent a wave of cheers from the small crowd of staff and guests who had gathered nearby. Cameras turned their way again. Adanna's hands trembled slightly as she looked at the massive white jet behind the hangar. "Sir, me?" Benson smiled. "You, the same girl who saved my company." Minutes later, the jet door closed. The soft hum of the engines filled the air. Inside the cabin, Adanna took the pilot's seat, her eyes sharp but emotional. Benson and Williams sat behind her, watching her with pride. "Are you ready, Captain Adanna?" Benson asked playfully. She smiled nervously. "Yes, sir." Williams leaned forward, his voice warm. "You've got this." Adanna took a deep breath and pushed the throttle. The jet rolled forward, faster and faster, until the ground blurred beneath them. Then, lift off. Cheers filled the cabin as the jet climbed through the clouds. Benson laughed, clapping his hands. "You did it!" Adanna couldn't stop smiling. Her eyes watered as she looked out the window at the endless blue sky. For years, she had only dreamed of this moment. Now she was living it. She turned slightly and caught Williams watching her. not just with admiration, but something softer, something deeper. He smiled when their eyes met. She looked away quickly, pretending to adjust the controls, her cheeks warm. After landing smoothly, Benson stood and hugged her tightly. "I am proud of you, my daughter." "Thank you, sir," she whispered. As they stepped out of the jet, cameras flashed again. Reporters rushed to cover the story of the billionaire and the orphan-turned-pilot. But that night, when the crowd was gone and the house was quiet, Adanna couldn't stop thinking about the look in William's eyes during the flight. She tried to push it away. He was the boss's son, after all, someone from a world far above hers. But fate was not done with them yet. Because the next morning, Williams knocked on her door with a simple request that would change everything. The next morning, the golden rays of dawn streamed softly through the white curtains of Adanna's small guest room inside the Anderson mansion. Birds chirped outside the window, the air smelled of freshly cut grass. Adanna stirred awake to the sound of a gentle knock. Knock, knock. She sat up, brushing her short curls aside. "Yes, come in." The door opened, and there he was, Williams Anderson, dressed casually in a white shirt and jeans, holding 2 cups of steaming coffee. "Good morning, Captain," he said with a smile that reached his eyes. Adanna blinked, a little confused. "Good morning, sir." He chuckled softly. "It's just Williams. My father insists everyone calls him sir, but I'm not that old." Her lips curved into a small smile. "All right, Williams." He handed her one of the cups. "Thought you might need this. Big day ahead." She took it carefully. "Thank you." There was a short silence, the kind that felt heavy with meaning. Then Williams said, "You flew perfectly yesterday. I was impressed." "Thank you," she said again, her eyes shyly meeting his. "It still feels like a dream." "Well," he said, slipping his hands into his pockets, "I was wondering if you'd like to join me for the Anderson Tech Innovation Expo today. My dad's giving a speech, and I could use some company. Maybe we can go together." Adanna hesitated. "Me? At the expo?" "Yes," Williams said confidently. "You're part of the Anderson story now. People should see the girl who saved the company." Her chest tightened. "I don't have the right clothes for something like that." Williams grinned. "Already handled. My assistant left something for you downstairs." She blinked. "You planned this?" He shrugged lightly. "Let's say I was hopeful you'd say yes." Adanna laughed quietly for the first time. "You're impossible." "Only when it works," he teased. Later that day, Anderson Tech Expo, Victoria Island. The convention center was alive with flashing cameras, banners, and music. Journalists from across Lagos gathered as luxury cars lined the red carpet. On the stage, a large digital banner read, "Anderson Tech, Innovating the Future." Benson stood proudly at the podium, his voice booming. "This company stands for vision, for change, and for believing in the unexpected. Today I want to share a story that changed my life." He paused and turned toward Adanna, who stood near the front row beside Williams, dressed in a stunning cream-colored gown that flowed gracefully to the floor. Her hair was neatly packed into a bun, and her natural beauty drew every eye in the room. Benson smiled warmly. When others doubted her, she proved everyone wrong. When I was about to lose everything, she saved me. Please welcome Captain Adanna Chukwu. The hall erupted in applause. Adanna froze for a moment, her heart racing. Williams leaned closer and whispered, "Go on. You deserve this." She took a deep breath and walked up the stage. The lights were bright, but she stood tall. Benson handed her the microphone, his eyes glistening with pride. "Good morning, everyone," she began softly. "I'm Adanna. A year ago, I was cleaning the floors of Anderson Tech, not knowing my life would change forever." The crowd grew quiet, listening. She continued, her voice trembling. "I didn't have a home or family, but Mr. Benson believed in me when no one else did. He showed me that kindness can change destiny. And now, standing here, I just want to say thank you." Tears shimmered in the audience. Cameras flashed again and again. Benson stood and hugged her in front of everyone. "You made me proud, my daughter." From the side of the stage, Williams watched, proud but also deeply moved. He had seen many confident people in his life, but there was something different about Adanna, something pure. When the event ended, reporters swarmed her again, asking for interviews. But she excused herself quietly and slipped outside to the garden for fresh air. Williams followed her there, carrying 2 plates of jollof rice from the catering table. "You forgot to eat," he said softly. She smiled, accepting 1 plate. "Thank you. You really think of everything, don't you?" He shrugged. "Only when it's important." They sat on a bench under the garden lights, eating and laughing. It was the first time Adanna felt truly happy, not as a helper or student, but as someone who mattered. Williams looked at her and said, "You know my father calls you family now, but I think I see you as something even more." Adanna froze, her spoon midway. "Williams." He looked straight into her eyes. "I can't explain it, but since the first day I saw you at the hangar, I haven't stopped thinking about you." Her heart skipped. "You shouldn't say that." "Why not?" he asked softly. "Because you're the boss's son," she whispered, "and I'm just—" "Don't say just," he interrupted gently. "You're Adanna, the girl who did what no one else could, the one who changed everything." The air grew still. The sound of crickets filled the space between their heartbeats. Then Benson's voice echoed faintly from the distance, calling out for his son. "Williams, we're leaving." Williams stood slowly, still looking at her. "I'll see you tomorrow, Adanna." As he walked away, Adanna sat frozen on the bench, her heart racing, unsure what to feel, afraid yet hopeful. She didn't know that the next day would bring a twist that would shake everything she thought she knew, because someone was watching them from the shadows that night, and that someone wasn't happy. The next morning, the Anderson mansion was filled with its usual rhythm, the hum of the fountain in the courtyard, the chatter of maids, and the occasional laughter of staff outside. But beneath that calm surface, something dark was brewing. Inside the dining hall, Benson Anderson sat at the head of the long marble table, reading the morning paper. Beside him sat Williams, scrolling through his phone with a half-smile, the kind that came when you remembered something that made you happy. Across the table, however, someone's face burned with quiet anger. Her name was Trisha Okafor, Benson's business partner's daughter, a beautiful woman with sharp cheekbones, a designer handbag, and a stare that could cut glass. For years, everyone believed she would marry Williams. The media even called them the future Anderson couple. But last night she had seen something she couldn't unsee. From her car outside the expo center, Trisha had watched Williams and Adanna laughing together in the garden. She saw the way he looked at her, not as a family friend or an employee, but as something more. And this morning, jealousy burned through her like fire. "So, Williams," Trisha said suddenly, breaking the silence, her voice dripping with sweetness that didn't reach her eyes. "You've been spending a lot of time with that pilot girl, haven't you?" Benson glanced up from his paper. "Her name is Adanna, Trisha." William's smile faded slightly. "Yes, I've been spending time with her. She's talented, smart, and she deserves every opportunity we've given her." Trisha forced a laugh. "Oh, I'm sure she does." "But be careful, Williams. Girls like her have a way of pretending to be humble until they get what they want." William's jaw tightened. "Girls like her?" She tilted her head. "You know what I mean. Poor orphans who suddenly find themselves living in a mansion. It must feel new to her." Before Williams could respond, Benson folded his newspaper and looked at Trisha sternly. "That's enough. Adanna has earned everything she has here. If anyone here needs to watch their words, it's you." Trisha's smile faltered. "I didn't mean any disrespect, Uncle Ben." "Good," Benson said, "because disrespecting her is disrespecting me." Williams rose from his chair, grabbed his jacket, and walked out without a word. His steps were calm, but his silence was loud. Outside, in the garden, Adanna was watering the flowers when Williams appeared. She looked up, startled. "You're up early." He forced a smile. "Couldn't sleep. Is everything all right?" He sighed. "Some people just can't stand to see others happy." She set the watering can down. "You mean Trisha?" Williams blinked. "How did you know?" Adanna smiled softly. "Because I saw her look at you yesterday. And I've seen that look before, from people who think they own what they never earned." He chuckled, impressed. You're wiser than most people I know. She shrugged. You learn things when life teaches you early. They sat under the garden gazebo, the morning breeze brushing softly through the flowers. Williams looked at her closely. Adanna, have you ever thought of leaving Nigeria again? You speak Chinese, you've been to flight school. You could go anywhere. She smiled faintly. Maybe. But I promised your father I'd stay until our aviation project launches. Besides, there's something here I don't want to leave. He leaned closer. And what's that? Her eyes met his. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Adanna whispered, You. Williams froze, his breath catching slightly. Then a small smile tugged at the corner of his lips. You shouldn't have said that. She looked down. I know. But I'm glad you did, he said softly. Before either could say another word, a loud voice interrupted them. Williams. It was Trisha. She stood at the entrance of the garden, holding her phone tightly. Your father wants you in the office, now. Her tone was sharp, too sharp. Williams sighed. I'll be right there. He turned to Adanna. Don't mind her, she's just… But Adanna shook her head gently. It's okay, go. I'll see you later. He hesitated, then nodded and walked away. Trisha watched him go, then slowly turned to Adanna. Her smile was cold. You must think you're special, she said quietly. Adanna stood still, her hands clasped in front of her. I don't think anything. Trisha stepped closer, her heels clicking on the marble path. Listen carefully. You don't belong here. You're just a charity project. When Mr. Benson gets tired of playing savior, you'll be back on the street where you came from. Adanna's eyes filled, but her voice stayed steady. If kindness is something he plays, then I pray he never stops playing it. Trisha scoffed and turned away, her face twisting in anger. We'll see about that. The rain poured outside, drumming against the glass walls of Anderson Towers. Benson sat behind his desk, signing documents. Trisha stood across from him, pretending to review files. Her eyes flicked to his computer screen. The same email that had once changed everything for Adanna. She smiled faintly. Uncle Ben, she said softly, have you ever wondered if Adanna might be taking advantage of you? Benson looked up sharply. What do you mean? Trisha leaned forward. I saw her and Williams in the garden today, alone. Very close. She's smart, yes, but maybe too smart. You don't know where she really came from. Benson's face darkened. You're crossing a line, Trisha. Am I? She asked innocently. You've known her for what? A year. You don't know her past. People can fake languages, fake stories. Enough, Benson said firmly. Adanna is family, and if I ever find out anyone is trying to hurt her, I'll consider it an attack on me. Trisha's jaw tightened. Of course, Uncle. I only care about your safety. But as she left the office, the smirk returned to her face. Because she already had a plan that would ruin Adanna's reputation forever. Rain fell heavily that night. The city lights of Lagos blurred through the wet office windows of Anderson Tech Towers. Somewhere inside, destiny was quietly rearranging the lives of everyone connected to that building. Adanna sat alone in her small room, looking out at the storm. Her reflection in the glass looked stronger than the girl who once swept the company's floor. But tonight her heart was restless. Something about Trisha's words echoed inside her like a bad dream. She whispered to herself, no matter what happens, I'll keep proving who I am. She didn't know that while she prayed for strength, someone else was praying for her downfall. By morning, the company was buzzing. Staff whispered, security men ran up and down, and Benson's assistant looked pale. In the boardroom, Benson sat with clenched fists while Trisha stood in front of a projector screen, her face the picture of fake concern. Uncle Ben, she began softly, I didn't want to believe it. But this was found in Adanna's company laptop. She pressed a button, and the screen flickered to life, displaying a series of emails written in Chinese. Gasps filled the room. Benson squinted at the screen. What is this? Trisha continued, her tone sweet but poisonous. Messages between Adanna and a foreign contact, a Chinese businessman. Look here, sir. It says she's been negotiating her own version of your aviation deal. She might have been spying all along. The board members murmured in shock. "That's impossible," Benson said finally, his voice trembling. "Adanna would never do that." Trisha sighed dramatically. "I hope you're right. But we have to be careful. If the investors hear about this, it could destroy your reputation." She turned toward the staff gathered in the corner. "Until this is cleared, I suggest she's suspended." Benson's heart pounded. "No, I can't." But before he could finish, the door opened. Adanna walked in. Her uniform was still neat, her expression calm, but the air around her felt heavy, like she already sensed something was wrong. Everyone went silent. She looked at the screen, then at Benson, then at Trisha. "What's going on?" Trisha crossed her arms, smiling faintly. "You should tell us, Adanna. Why are there secret Chinese messages in your company laptop?" Adanna blinked. "What? That's not possible." Trisha clicked her tongue. "The proof is right there. We can have the IT team confirm it." Benson stood slowly. "Adanna, I don't want to believe this, but I need you to tell me the truth." Tears welled up in Adanna's eyes. "Sir, I swear to you I don't know anything about this. Someone must have planted those messages." Trisha scoffed. "Of course someone planted them. The mysterious hacker Orphan story again, right?" Adanna turned to her sharply. "You did this, didn't you?" Trisha's smile widened. "Careful, little girl. You're in enough trouble already." The tension in the room thickened. Benson rubbed his forehead, torn between reason and shock. "Everyone out," he said finally. The room cleared, leaving only Benson, Adanna, and Trisha. "Sir, please, you have to believe me," Adanna pleaded, her voice shaking. "I would never betray you." Benson looked into her eyes, the same eyes that had saved him once before, but the weight of doubt was heavy. "Adanna, the emails were sent from your system. Until I figure this out, I need you to stay away from company grounds." The words felt like a knife. She stepped back slowly, tears falling freely now. "You're suspending me." "I'm sorry," Benson whispered. Trisha folded her arms behind him, hiding her triumphant smile. Adanna turned and walked out, her heart breaking with every step. That night, Williams returned home from a business trip. When he heard what happened, his expression changed instantly. "She what?" he demanded, storming into the study. Benson looked up from his desk. "She was suspended. There's evidence linking her to leaked documents." "Evidence planted by who?" Williams shot back. Benson sighed. "Williams, no, Dad. You told me once to trust my instincts in people, and I trust her. Adanna would never betray us." Benson's face softened. "Then prove it." Williams turned on his heel. "I will." 2 days later, the company's IT department called Benson. Their analysis was complete. The emails were indeed written in Chinese, but not by Adanna. The system logs showed they were sent from another device using her name, and when they traced the location, it led to a computer in Trisha's father's office. Benson's eyes widened. "What?" He called the head of IT. "Send me everything. Every screenshot, every timestamp. Now." As the files arrived, his chest grew heavy with guilt. He had doubted the girl who once saved him. That evening, Trisha arrived at the mansion for dinner, wearing her usual confident smile. But as she stepped into the living room, she froze. Benson, Williams, and Adanna were already there. The air felt electric. "Trisha," Benson said calmly, "we found out the truth." Trisha blinked. "What truth?" Williams stepped forward, holding a printed sheet. "That you framed Adanna. These emails came from your father's server. Care to explain?" Trisha's face turned pale. That's not possible." "Stop lying," Benson's voice thundered. "You tried to destroy an innocent girl because of jealousy." Her lips trembled. "I did it for you. She's beneath us." "She doesn't deserve—" "Enough!" Benson cut her off sharply. "You've said enough to bury yourself." Tears filled Trisha's eyes as she turned to Williams. "I did it because I love you. Can't you see that?" Williams shook his head slowly. "That's not love. That's selfishness." She let out a weak sob and ran out, her heels echoing across the marble floor. Silence followed. Then Benson turned toward Adanna, the shame heavy in his eyes. "Adanna, I don't know how to face you. I doubted you when I should have stood beside you. Adanna stepped forward, her voice soft. "Sir, it's okay. You believed me when no one else ever did. You gave me a life. I can forgive one mistake." Benson's eyes glistened. He hugged her tightly. "You're more than family to me. You're my daughter." William smiled through teary eyes. "And soon, she'll be my wife." Benson blinked. "What did you say?" Williams turned toward Adanna, went down on one knee, and pulled out a small silver ring. "Adanna Chukwu, from the first day you said I can help you translate it, you changed all our lives. Will you marry me?" Gasps echoed around the hall, from maids, staff, and even the guards by the door. Adanna covered her mouth, trembling. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "Yes, yes, I will." Benson wiped his eyes, laughing through the tears. "My boy, you've made me proud again." Epilogue. 1 year later, a golden morning sun bathed the runway of the Anderson Aviation School, a new institution Benson had founded in Adanna's honor. A sleek private jet sat gleaming in the light. On the side, bold letters read, "Sophia 1. Adanna, now Captain Adanna Anderson, walked proudly toward the jet in her pilot's uniform, her baby girl cradled in her arms, Sophia, named after her late mother. Williams stood beside her, smiling, while Benson watched from his wheelchair, clapping joyfully as photographers snapped away. He whispered to himself, all because one poor orphan said, "I can help you translate it." The engines roared to life, and as the plane rose into the sky, Benson's eyes filled with peace. Sometimes help comes from the least expected places, and one act of faith can change generations forever. If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.